to Season 2, Episode 1 of the AIS podcast. As always, AIS is above industry standard. I'm here with my new co-host, Nate Burket, out of Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, with Riverview Decks. Nate, so stoked for this season. Give us a little bit about yourself, what we're going to be doing this year, what you guys are doing over in Eastern Tennessee, and let's get this kicked off.
Yeah. What's up? Happy to be here. This is pretty cool. I'm excited to be a part of this. I know we did an interview, last year, and since then, obviously, we've been connected quite a bit, talking through a lot of different things, just different business practices and ways to grow and scale and fix problems within your day to day. But we're Riverview Decks, East Tennessee. To correct it, we like to leave the earn off the end. We shorten everything you would normally speak of. So instead of thanking people, we say appreciations. There's just some weird terminology that I didn't know when I moved here 18 years ago. You pick up on, but overall, Riverview Decks. We're a licensed general contractor here in East Tennessee, and we focus primarily on decks, patios, porches. Prior to that, I was a GC, kind of doing just about anything. I would take any project if it make money, and of course, had a hard time scaling and constantly failing to grow from that. So until I niched into this business and started focusing on what we could do to, show up in our market more consistently with a better program that executes more effectively, we had no idea what we were doing. So this conversation today, I hope we can get into some really good details, help share with the followers you have and the people we've created to kind of see a bigger picture for being self-employed, creating some momentum in your business, right? Yeah,
definitely. And your background was, sales, right? It was, but in a different type of industry. Like, tell us a little about your background. Like, we're kind of the question I always ask people is like, what's your hammer? Like if there's a nail that's sticking out, like what hammer are you hitting that with? Is that a marketing hammer, a sales hammer? You're an ops guy, you're a finance guy. Like, what's your cornerstone of skill set?
It's so funny you say that because it took me till I was like 36 to figure that out. And everyone's like, "You're a sales guy, man. You're a sales guy." I'm extremely methodical in the way I think about stuff because I have a creative mindset and want to see things work well and processes operate well. But I am not a implementer, and I learned that by going through a program called Wealth Dynamics, and it helped me identify I have traits and characteristics and personality details that are focused on kind of observing and analyzing. So my past, early on, I ended up in sales positions. I've had 36 W-2s since I was the age of 14.
Jeez.
36. So 36. Yeah. And most of those were, an attempt at being a good sales guy, and then I wouldn't make the commission, so I ended up having to find like a day-to-day hourly pay role, and I'd kind of just sit there and twiddle my thumbs and just dream about the sales job that I'd have next. And I've done anything from selling boats to selling mortgages to selling cars. I served tables. I bartended. That was probably one of my favorite positions because you got to learn people skills a little differently when you're serving people at a table or a bar. You pick up on different things, and get a lot of really good stories from that. But I ended up in a career in logistics as a freight broker. And I think that's what sort of started to cut my teeth in the fact that businesses operate uniquely in the world. Not every business requires every component of it to be a complete in-house process. Whether you're making widgets and you're shipping them from China and drop shipping, or if you're, like in the logistics industry, a lot of companies don't own their own trucks. They work with mom and pop companies and they broker those resources. I was telling you earlier, I just bought a sports car. The trucking company that hauled it to me, they were a complete third party from the company I hired. And I was completely fine with it. They have a great working relationship. I'm well versed in that industry. So I knew that was what was going to happen. They weren't going to do it. But it's like mortgages too. If you got your house written by a bank right now and underwritten, there's a good chance after you close on the deal, they're selling that note.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're brokering that deal. And that's what got me thinking after I was in the freight industry for so long. Got me thinking about how many different industries, whether you're in the food and beverage or paper and plastics or manufacturing or whatever, how many companies really do kind of break it down like that and ultimately use better resources to stand up a solution for a client? And in our industry here, I kept thinking and seeing home improvements as an opportunity. Of course, you all see a lot of HVAC companies blowing up, a lot of, plumbing companies. You see a lot of different home services businesses scaling that way and offering quick to the market solutions. And not a lot of it's in-house. Maybe their marketing's outsourced. Maybe their sales department's outsourced.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of got me thinking about that model and logistics. In a freight brokerage, it's all just like pods. You got a 4-man, 5-man pod, and you're on the phones, constantly resourcing qualified carriers to haul the freight that you're about to cold call to find.
Yeah.
And just marrying the two together. So you've got to have a good relationship with the trucking company. You got to have a great relationship with your client, and you're going to be the middle person to coordinate the whole thing.
It's like
So
service arbitrage, it's no different than what you do as a contractor and outsourcing, your paint or your floor or whatever it may be. Like, I know arbitrage is usually like commodity based, but it's really the same thing. Like, we're taking something, some people are making a margin off of that and just basically white labeling a service under your brand to make more money without really doing anything for it, which is, it's a good model,
Yeah, that's right. I would say that definitely it is time consuming to really create the right structure, the right process. Because over time, you're going to break that system by adding either bigger ticket items or more detailed scope or complexity in the relationship. So you have to be prepared to kind of be willing to systematize it right. And over the last 2 years, we've really dialed in and honed down even more. After we niched into decks, then I niched into, all right, what kind of decks? And how long should it take us to build that kind of deck? And then does the market really demand that kind of product? The larger scope, massive projects that you typically see, there are very few of those in and around our market. You could get rich doing just the extreme high end. But the reality is, in the 500,000 people that would be interested in our services in this market, they're usually in a, standardized, normal deck. It's not an elaborate project, but they'd like for it to be low maintenance, one that doesn't require them to come back to it in the next 15 years and spend more money on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you made the pivot to going into decks from general construction and kitchens, baths, remodel world, and I was a little skeptic. Had a little skepticism about it. I was like, I don't know, man. And then obviously we saw your success, Lawan's success, just like, oh no, David's coughing.
Uh-oh.
Producer Dave's stepping out of the office. But man, just being able to see like how there's the riches and the niches, like that type of kind of cheesy slogan, but that's so true, dude. Like, you guys have killed it since doubling down on like an identity for your business, which I think is huge, because like talking about process, I think that's kind of where we could take the conversation. Like, what is the goal of a process and why you should have some, and why it's so tough to have processes that are effective in a company more like mine at KHB Construction. I have an interesting perspective since our acquisition of last year with the tile and stone company as a single trade subcontractor, where like things are super repeatable. Like the products and services that we offer are so much less than on the remodeling side, to where you could actually build predictable, repeatable outcomes through processes. And on the KHB side, man, it just doesn't happen. So, when you were building out, like, I know the biggest issue for me has always been adoption. Because nothing, like, I could have all the fanciest processes in the world and they don't mean shit if people don't follow them, right? Like, what do you feel like the people around the process, how are they interjecting themselves into it? How are they bettering it? How are they possibly breaking it? Are you, like, for me, like, I want my employees to actually assist in that process creation, because no one's going to adopt it if they don't believe in it, And so I want them to kind of have some skin in the game. Like, what are your thoughts, man? And how did you get your people on board to really buy in and adopt those processes?
Initially I had a team that I thought when we started to develop the process, they would understand and value my position as the leader of the company and just do it, right? Hey, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it. Let's go. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's not good leadership either. In fact, quite frankly, that'll backfire you on, because what'll happen is when you're not looking, they're going to go do it their way. And, it turns into a lack of communication then, because they're loading their backpack up with all the necessities for the day, and they just keep loading it down, and they're carrying all this weight of those responsibilities, and they're never going to come back to you and say, hey, I need help now. This isn't working the way it should. They're gonna stop the real effective feedback loop that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So as a good leader, I think when you start to brainstorm how you're going to change and do things, you got to bring up the benefits to everybody. Hey, look, so that you are not here till 8:00 at night, I thought about a way to, speed up the takeoff process. What if we were to kind of do it this way and then schedule a meeting with our subcontractor and have them get onboarded with the idea of how we've done our takeoff. So then you guys are now two people looking at the same thing. And every time we do a takeoff together, you're all on the same page as to what it's going to take to get the materials ordered. That way, nobody can point the finger at the end of the day and go, hey, man, these 2x10s are supposed to be 2x12s. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We all took ownership of this, right? I didn't have to be here at 8:00 at night either doing it because we did it together. So that's just one way, just thinking outside the box, how we've done it. And there's still things like I can tell you right now that I've brainstormed on out loud that I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. Why would I ever waste their time with the idea of that?
Well, dude, it's tough too, because like when it's iterating, it's just an iteration of a process and then finding the holes in it, especially when you're starting a business from scratch. Like you started Riverview from scratch. I started a KHB, I had assistance with a partner in doing so, but from scratch. Like you don't know what you don't know until you know it, and things have to break in order to like change and adapt. So I 100% feel that, dude, because it's tough there's only probably about 5 people that actually stayed with our company through all the growing pains. They kind of understood the big picture and they get it and they want to be with us and they're capable of doing it. But everyone else, it was like, we're on a fucking little speedboat, right? We're just shifting left, shifting right, dodging all these buoys in the middle of the ocean, just trying to make it to, the finish line. But
Catalina Island.
Exactly, for the wine mixer. We're trying to get there. I wanted to share what we built out and something that's like ever evolving. And if you're not on YouTube, you should definitely go on YouTube and check this out, because it's process plotting, and it's super valuable for kind of visualizing how the process works. And one of the things that we did was we made single points of accountability for all of us. Oh, it's under David's. Oh gosh, that's why. I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? Oh no, we're under David's Google profile. This is going to be an issue down the road. Anyways, that's not going to work right now.
We can't browse the internet. We can't CTI.
Here. Oh, I got it. We got the hack. Yeah, we need some cruise the internet. I need a DJ.
DJ. Let's flex ourselves into this.
All right, I got this pulled up though. Just use my password. Do you have 2FA on everything? I freaking hate it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not that crazy. I mean, I've got 1Password setups for 2 or 3 of the computers in here, so it's you literally, once you get in, you're in.
Yeah. All right, let me pull this up. Okay, sharing screen. It is going to be. We'll just do my entire screen. It's going to be a screen of a screen of a screen. So don't freak out. Okay, here we go. We're going to do this one. Can you see this, Nate?
Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah, I see
Okay.
exactly where you're at with this.
So, like, this is process plotting, And you have your little key, you have your CSR, your sales team, your design team, your finance team, production management, project management, superintendents, logistic manager, like all of that. And this was probably our second or third draft of breaking it, refining it, putting it back together. And this was it was a collaborative, process building. And so what we've found, and on the one we're actually redoing right now, we're not really redoing the steps of each process, but we isolated everything down to single points of accountability. So everything from, let's see, this pre-construction meeting back, the single point of accountability is sales. Now that process and all of these processes, every single bubble here has SOPs attached to it on how to do that. But the salesperson is 100% accountable for everything the designer does, whether it's in-house or outsourced design, 100% accountable for the CSR, and 100% accountable for setting up production for project management, production manager, superintendent, and logistics, and finance, like all the way through. And then after this happens, we have our day one of job. Now the project manager is accountable for everyone in this whole process. And on the back end, our accounts payable, accounts receivable, bookkeeping is accountable for all of our financials in assistance with the project manager. But instead of like saying, oh, shoot, design didn't have XYZ, like I'm not breathing down design's throat. I'm coming to the salesperson, and it really gave them, more ownership of the process, because like I'm not going to yell at the CSR, right? That's not really my job. Like if you're getting bad setup leads, the salesperson needs to come down on the CSR. I'm not getting, upset with my designer if the salesperson doesn't have a clear actionable design, or if operations doesn't. The salesperson is now the CEO of that process. Now, if someone's blatantly not doing their job, like there's parameters here. There's like guardrails around what the salesperson can and can't do. Like he's not firing a CSR. He's not reprimanding a CSR. It's like in a collaborative sense. But still, like if something's not happening, he's going to be going into that process, diving in with her, with him, and like refining that. And I found one, it gives people so much more agency when they have ownership over their own processes. And it just takes away all of the BS of he said, she said. It's like, I don't care what she said. It's you're the CEO of this division, right? Like you're the salesperson. You're in charge of your leads. You're in charge of your projects. You're in charge of everything that happens behind the scenes. In our weekly meetings, I'm coming to you, right? Like, and you report back to me. It takes out all the he said, she said. And that's been really nice. Like I was in Vegas for a week. Last week, I was in Vegas all week. Everyone took care of all their own stuff, right? I got all my daily reports in my inbox. I was just checking through the schedules, checking through the client interactions, checking through what's in the pipeline for design, checking what kind of consults happened. All the meetings were recorded, and I could manage the business. If I was 3,000 miles away, I could manage the business. And so I think there's something really big to be said about having ownership of the process and not being like a top-down leader, but really kind of leading from the back in a lot of ways.
One of the things that you have kind of helped me arrive to by seeing what you've just done is every business is unique in the sense that your sales cycles and your like timeline from maybe when you've onboarded a client to when you start deliverables to the point when you're actually in like mobilizing out to actually demo or whatever it is the initial on-site stuff looks like. Those do make a big difference in a lot of this process and a lot of this communication, because like for us, when I was doing interior innovation, that sort of thing wasn't a thing for me, but it would have helped. But I was able to be away a lot more when there was a lot of time in the milestones or in the base camp, status. When there was freedoms in the middle there, I had what I would call faff off time, right? But now building decks in 3 days and having to sell, multiple decks a day, it's quick and the cycles are so fast and there's so much to keep up on. There's so many messages. There's a lot of questions. And even though it's very clear, I mean, my staff is still at the point where there's still stuff that's like, there's little things. Hey, what was this supposed to be? Or sales guy, how did this get sold? Or, are we still waiting on an initial sign off on an inspection? Who's responsible for that in production? So it's like, there are still a lot more checks and it's faster on the quicker jobs. On the larger jobs, I feel like it slows down a little bit more. I feel like I golfed more then. I don't golf as much anymore now. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but
I think that's one reason why I love full home renovations because it's a 3, 6, 9 month horizon. I'm not running around with my head cut off. You can kind of foresee what's going to be an issue down the road based off of what's happening right now, which is refreshing because a lot of times you don't know there's a landmine in the middle of the road until you step on it, and it's like, oh shoot, someone didn't order this, or the permit card's not on site. Who's responsible for the permit card? Like, where's the freaking permit card? We have inspection today. Like, why didn't we check this earlier? Like those little like snafu type breaks in the chain of process is super frustrating. But another thing I found useful was recording all of my conversations with an AI tool on site. And so it like when there's a problem and it's just like an organic problem, you have it recorded and then you can go back to that conversation and ask that AI tool, hey, identify the problems that came up during this conversation. It spits out XYZ problem, right? And then you can say, what would be an effective process to never have this happen again, right? And then it just gives you like the most black and white, unemotional, like hit you between the eyes, like this is what you should do. And it's like, oh, makes sense. Have the freaking PM staple that permit card in the job trailer and make sure that never leaves the job site. Like, duh, easy. But I don't know. Anytime it's kind of scary, but it's also really exciting to take the emotion out of our decision making. Because a lot of times I'm guilty of this all the time, adjusting a process to fit the person. And that doesn't scale, right? Because people are unique. People are different. People have different MOs, different incentives, different everything about them. To where like if you have the process for one salesperson needs to be the same process when you have 50. Like it needs to be built to scale, and built with the end result in mind. And sometimes, especially with smaller teams, people get frustrated because there's a lot more reporting. There's a lot more deliverables when it's like, hey, dude, I'm a maverick. I'm in the Wild Wild West. Like, I'm the only guy here. Why am I writing all this reports for no one, right? Like, I'm the only person. And so once again, that buy-in, it just keeps coming back to like, well, don't you want to lead a team of 20 people? Like, how are you going to know your team of 20 is actually doing their job? That's what we're doing right now, right? Like, think ahead, a little bit.
Yeah, no, what we're talking about here is like adoption of the process where like you may have a sales guy that adopts it with the mindset that you've kind of delivered to him, but then you've got a sales guy that may have had no sales experience prior to this and it doesn't adopt the same way and as well. And that's where like you're using the concept of AI. I think there's we talk about this a lot, Zero AI, which is the recording system you use for your sales team on site, and it gives them.
I'm affiliated with Rilla, so I'm on the other side of that fence.
You're kind of but at the end of the day, you're getting these extremely high level results by using it because now you can really filter through and identify some of like the types of conversations that are roadblocks for you, and that's where you're doing your L10 meetings around with that leadership. Hey, what's going on with this same constant challenge that we face? We've talked about it over and over, but it seems like it's a roadblock on every one of our jobs. How do we structure our process to eliminate that in the future, right? And then giving everybody like enough information at that point to see the win and how you've identified the problem. Like there are a lot of companies out there that are hesitant to even use AI.
Yeah.
But as a leader, if you're willing to take chances on doing stuff like that and sharing wins in that with your team, they're going to look around and see other companies in your local market and go, nobody's doing this. This is how we're better, right?
Yeah. Well, and more effective, right? Because I think it's Tim Collins, Good to Great, where he mentions
Yeah.
this about technology, but he's like, technology should not create new processes. It should accelerate what's already in place, like be more effective, more efficient, more proactive. But the one caveat there, and I'm building a deck together for a conference I'm going to talk at about this. AI is the only exception to that, to where AI can create the process, do the process, and report back on the outcomes. So, like, Tim Collins, I think it was great back then, when it was going from, snail mail, writing literal letters and putting them in the mail to email, like that tech accelerated communication tremendously. Just the invention of the internet was incredible for accelerating existing processes that were horse-drawn carriage processes that now are freaking Lamborghinis, But with AI, man, there's not many limitations if you're talking to the right people about what your ideal outcome is. Great example, our team at Moonbound right now, I don't know how he's doing it, but he's a freaking wizard when it comes to like little AI agents, right? So we can train an AI agent that's an on-screen agent. He can watch this whole thing. He can report back. He can go do tasks for me as I say them. Like in this meeting, he can go say like, man, I'm getting my phone's blowing up right now. Like I have so many emails. He can go in my inbox, organize all my emails, and then write me a summary of what I need to respond to, and then add it to my calendar as to-dos. I don't have to check my email anymore, right? Like all AI. That was not even a process I was thinking about. Actually, I have a chick in the Philippines, my VA, who does my whole email inbox. And I hope she's not listening, but that's kind of an obsolete task for her now. Like once that's all rolled out company-wide, then I can start time blocking everyone's schedules. Like, hey, no one checks their email till 10 o'clock. There's no need to, right? Like if there's something 911 major alert, this AI is going to let you know. Like, don't even worry about your inbox. Check it at 10 and 2, and then leave the office. It doesn't just accelerate. It completely redefines how you can operate in your corporation. And what's scary too is like, I feel like us, like 30s, early 40s, we have a really good grasp because we lived on both sides of the fence, like pre-cell phones, pre-internet, and then post-internet and adoption of technology. Like we're still young enough to kind of get it. And we're going to freaking take over the world with what we have right now. And I'm terrified of the 20-year-old right now that's in the field, that's entrepreneurial-ish. And in 5-10 years, he's going to go start his own company knowing 10 times more than we know. And he'd just be right on our heels. And the acceleration of success is going to be so much faster. Like if it took us 10 years to get where we're at, it's going to take him 2. It's just a crazy concept to think about. It's the great equalizer in business right now, especially in service companies like ours, because all that really matters for us is the clients taken care of. And that comes down to like communication, quality of work, timeline. And we're not far off from really AI taking care of a lot of those boxes, like checking off a lot of that requirement.
Yeah, I think there's another piece of adoption here that is, it's tough to start to draw the line. I mean, obviously, everyone has the shiny object syndrome mindset as an entrepreneur because there's so many things that we see and events that we can attend to kind of give you a better approach. And reality is all of, the businesses in the world, even if you look back to when we were kids, like hearing about entrepreneurs trying to grow and scale, they were dealing with the same thing. Well, if you're not, adding technology, if you can't type 70 words per minute on a keyboard, you're probably not going to be in business. If you don't have a website, you're not going to be in business anymore. And all of that was what we grew up on. And, we've had to adopt quite a bit. And I think there's things that you can easily get overwhelmed with when you start to adopt. I think there's things that you need to at least have, I would say, a small percentage of your budgeted time and budgeted resources to trial and fail, right? Like think about some of the biggest companies in the world, Fortune 100, like UPS. I think UPS has a $1 trillion, or not trillion, a $2 billion budget on learning more about technology every year. Like that's when I worked within an umbrella organization that was a subsidiary. I heard that and I go, that's genius. Like, and that's a lot of money to be spending on learning new tech stacks, figuring out new things, like hiring MIT grads to come in and program crap that may never even turn into anything, but it's just trial and error. And so if you're willing, if the think tank, so if you're willing to take out like some of your time and learn a little bit about AI, go to an event, maybe hear somebody speak about it that's using it, I think it's helpful. But with that too, also, it has to improve your process and not create more problems. And if you're adding all these things, what problem are you solving? Right.
Which I think that I do agree. Like adoption's the number one problem when adding tech to your processes. Even if it accelerates it, even if it's a common sense solution, you're still going to have that 65-year-old project manager who is like, no, black and white, tried and true. Yeah, exactly. Now, but what I'm trying to say is that's going to become irrelevant. Like adoption isn't going to be a part of the equation anymore because it's just going to happen. It's just going to do it for you. Like the whole agent, concept is that there isn't a person. Like the AI is autonomous in its protocol to get to A to B, right? So like you're just going to have to do like a mass download of this agent, embed it in everyone's desktop, laptop, company cell phones, pads, tablets, all of that. And it just happens. It just does it, right? Like if I want to see on screen how many times my salespeople check in on their leads daily, I don't have to create a process for the salesperson to say, okay, here's your Excel sheet, here's your KPI sheet, here's how you enter the information. Let's train on this. Let's role play through like different scenarios. If it's a full home or a kitchen, how many touch points do we need? That's irrelevant now. It just reports what actually happened, and the salesperson technically doesn't even need to know about it. It's that soft data, right? Like it's not it's not NSLI. It's not your lead to demo percentage. It's not raw leads coming in. It's just the soft data, almost like soft skills around hard skills. Like you might be a salesperson, but you really lack empathy, and like that soft skill issue is what's really holding you back. I feel like the soft data in the business is also another thing that keeps us a little bit blind as business owners because we don't understand the context or the nuances of salesperson A versus salesperson B. We don't know why maybe salesperson A is way more successful than salesperson B. But now if we have all the on-screen data that they're doing every day and it's concentrated and diluted down into KPIs that we didn't even know were important factors, in their productivity and performance, that's just game changing. Like it's incredible insights. And AI's, I mean, it's been around since the 60s, but like actual functional, almost sentient AI has really only been 3 years, right? 4 years, David? Something like that. Yeah, it hasn't been that long.
Here's a random question for you. So like, obviously perceptions in everybody's mind, especially like people that work for you, the perception of how this is all going to help and improve and benefit. And then, we can geek out on that, but I don't think that's really that as much of an importance as it is like the perception of the people who are going to be hiring you that would see the value in all of these extra things you're doing. Because really, most people, when they're looking for general contracting trades to service them in their home, they're not thinking about like, does this guy have AI? Is he organized? Like
they don't care.
What? Yeah. They're expecting like. I mean, I heard an old adage like one point is like the rich woman. Yeah, my contractor's coming over today, and it's like, well, I have a name, right? Right. Yeah. I'm not diluted that much, but at the end of the day, I think perception from a client's viewpoint on how this is way more efficient is important, and how you deliver that to somebody and give them the necessary visuals so they see the benefits of what you do differently and why, right?
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, like that AI agent, for example, that was just for like emails and maybe on-screen soft skills. I can also follow the client. Right? So I can follow this IP, and as soon as they put their name in that form on my website, I now can connect all that data, right? So the IP, the digital footprint, all the accepted cookies that they accepted on our website and all this stuff, all that data plus their name now combines, right? So now I have a complete meta profile of that person. And if you look at do you know what Microsoft Clarity is? It's like it's like a heat map for your website. You can see if there's any choke points, see where people are holding up. So now I can see okay, she visited 20 pages on our website. She spent 4 minutes on this one page looking through our before photos, and then she watched these testimonials, and then she went back to the About Us and read about this, and the AI can give me a doctored synopsis of what's important to this client based off of their data, right?
Yeah.
And then that can go into your sales profile. So your salesperson gets a complete analysis of okay, Kathy Jane really was into our before photos. She kept looking at these ones here. She also looked at this testimonial video, and she's also in that neighborhood. So let's put together for your presentation, the in-home presentation, this testimonial, her written testimonial, before and afters of that project, the biggest problem we solved for this homeowner. And we're leveraging almost her subconscious at this point, right? Because she has no idea that we have tech following our website and really scraping all of that data that she doesn't know she's giving us. But she does because she accepted the cookies, and this still falls, for the Google police out there, still falls within the data privacy laws that were updated, last year or the year before. It's just incredible insights. And they don't need to know we use AI, but we're gonna have so much more of an edge than Chuck in a truck that she just called, getting her third bid, saying she wants to do a kitchen remodel. Well, it's actually not a kitchen remodel. It's for her kids when they come home and bring their grandkids, and they have Thanksgiving every year there. And we really want to build an environment that is comforting to them. And she has the same 1950s home as our other project that was two blocks down the street, and we know all this, and that Chuck in a truck is dead, right? He has no chance to win this job over us because he doesn't have the data that we have, No,
he's going to send her shopping for all the emotional things she thinks would make this a great experience.
Yeah. He doesn't know the true buying incentives that she has, where we do, and we know that now. That used to be in the discovery phase of our sales process: pain, pleasure, person problem, product problem, scope of work problem, function or whatever. We already know this stuff now. We already know the person problem behind why she called us. And so it's a huge step up from traditional contractors that aren't adopting these things. And that's the 1% better edge, because it's tough not to be a commodity. I'm sure you feel that way too in some aspects. I'm sure homeowners are well, anyone could build a deck. Right? Any contractor could build my deck.
I had this conversation the other day. It was in regards to concrete work. We do quite a bit of concrete work, and you wouldn't think that, but how I'm able to do concrete work and get clientele that is willing to pay the price tag for what we charge for it, versus someone who focuses on just concrete work. And comparing our businesses together, we identified that they're having a hard time selling at the same price tag. But the reality is, we come in knowing a whole lot more about our client, with a better understanding for what the outcome needs to be, and we anchored them. They were calling us for a deck. We anchored them at a price point for a deck. Of course, if I come in with a price tag that's half as much that they don't have to maintain, the concrete work's a layup. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now all it is just collect the money and sign the document, right? So that was the conversation I had with this concrete contractor. He's just I'm just so frustrated how are you able to get work like you are. And I'm like, well, maybe the way you're identifying your ideal client is in the wrong arena. Maybe you need to be asking for, why does concrete fail so much? What's happening? Maybe you should be an excavation company instead of a concrete company, right?
Or just start telling a story, right? Everyone loves a good story, and stories sell. But I think the biggest issue in our industry is it has been commoditized. Like you said, the homeowner that says, my contractor's coming over. Not Nate from Riverview Decks, they specialize in decks, real excited, they're coming over later. It's my contractor. Like
Yeah.
that's the core issue right there. Like reducing it down is
Exactly.
we're commoditized. Like how do you break out of that confine, like socially and professionally, of no, I'm not just a contractor, right? My
Yeah.
company has a story. My company has a mission, and my brand exemplifies that mission to everyone that is attracted to be a customer of ours. And I mean that's every company's age-old problem, I think. But you look at the ones that have done it, like Google, Apple, even like a lot of these startups now, like where they're starting with that in mind. They're like, it's just so much more top of mind, And like when I buy, like, I'm a Lululemon whore. It's really bad, But I buy Lululemon because it's Lululemon, right? Like I could go to Bird Dogs, the dude that knocked them off. I could go to Viore, the little e-commerce that knocked them off. But like,
Now I got to throw my bird dog away. I
do you
didn't realize that.
so I actually haven't tried Bird. Do you like Bird Dog? I haven't even tried
The
it.
shorts. I've had a hard
shorts?
time. I'm a pretty short guy, and the shorts are working for me. But that's about all I can fit in.
Yeah.
Everything else
Like,
can fit.
this is a Lulu polo, and it's just like silk, It's just so nice.
Yeah, they are.
You could sleep
So
in it.
nice.
But
Perception.
but they started with the end in mind, and I think that's what we need to do as contractors. Like everyone starts their company for freedom, money, time freedom, all of that good stuff. But you're never going to get there if you don't start with the end goal, which is true freedom, like being able to have like FU time. Like I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and everything runs without me, right? How do you get that? Well, you need a shit ton of customers, and you need a bunch of good people to produce it and manage it.
Yeah.
No one's going to buy into you as a contractor if you're just a chuck and a chuck. You have no mission. You have no vision. You have no goals. Like, how are they going to win under the umbrella of your company's mission and identity, right? Like, if you're just a chuck and a chuck, it's like, yeah, you just show up, you get paid on Fridays, you go get your weekend beer, and I'll see you on Monday. Like, there's no identity in that. Like, it's just it's hollow, right?
Gosh,
So,
you said
I don't
something that weird, doesn't it? That's a Southern conversation. Weekend
yeah.
beer? Oh, we
Weekend
got
beer?
Tuesday beers, but we got weekend beers too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you got to get your beer before Sunday, right?
Right. Yeah, you can't get it. That's what I'm saying. Like we have those laws. In fact, actually, it's funny. You can't get liquor and anything but like the state liquor distribution stores. But
Yeah.
now they've started selling wine in some of the grocery stores, and people are losing their minds. Like, whoa, I can get a Boda box from the gas station on Saturday morning. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I
Perception.
remember the first time I went down south, I was like, what? I thought this was America. Like, where's the
Dry
freedom? Yeah, it's wild. You couldn't get a beer on a Sunday. Like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, and also, all the old country songs, they educate me. Get your weekend
yeah.
beers. Yep,
Weekend beers. Yeah.
yep. Well, man,
Yep, that ties it together, man. Like we just went through a full circle here. We talked about the adoption of it all, the discussion of how to implement really good processes, how your people perceive them, perception from your client, and how you can really identify good processes. So I just took down some notes here that I thought deeper on too with processes. That I think the more you talk about what you're doing to have an edge, and the more you face some of your bigger issues and problems, the more you'll start to see, and of course networking. Like just in conversation right now, I've seen 3 or 4 different things that I've not thought of that will be good takeaways. So
that's what we should do
hopefully-
next episode. Episode 2, we should do like how to create a process, like step by step, how to create a process with the end in mind that is scalable, it is repeatable, has predictable outcomes. We should dive into all that, and like SMART goals and all that good stuff. I think that'd be valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the goal of AIS podcast is to get everyone above the industry standard. And now that's a very low bar in our industry. Like the bar is, show up within a 2-hour window of when you said you would, be sober, and bring your tools. Like that's the only bar we have in our industry. So I think it's a pretty easy lift to get people above that bar. But no, we're going to have some great guests coming up this year. We're going to have some great content and topics just like this. And for everyone listening, YouTube's going to be really important. It's probably, especially for that process development one. I'll probably put together like a little workshop type thing and go through either a deck or maybe I'll create a new process for a fictional company, like live while we're doing it with the process plotting tech that we use. And I think that'd be really cool. I think it'd be valuable too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. That's the pod, right?
There it is. We
There
potted it up.
Season 2, Episode 1. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a comment on Apple, Spotify, all the podcast hubs. We're on all of them. So check us out. Share it to a friend. If there was something valuable here and you have a contractor, family member, friend, or if you're a contractor yourself, please share that. Once again, we're trying to get everyone above that industry standard, and we can't do that without you.
Yes, 2025. Let's go.
Let's get it.